Guys, welcome into my official NFL 2023 Mock Draft 1.0, where I go through a full dissection of the 2023 NFL Draft, the entire first round, what's happening as we go into Week 18. Guys, as for my Week 18 official picks, I'm waiting for more clarity on the NFL schedule after that scary situation last night. I am going to let the NFL announce some things, and then when it all gets announced, I will give my official picks on what's going on with Week 18. But this is my official 1.0 NFL draft video, and when it comes to the 1.0 version, guys, we still do have basically every single pick left to be determined based on what happens in Week 18. So right now, Houston, they have not clinched the number 1 overall pick. They need to lose to Indianapolis. That game's going to be a total tank on. Whoever loses, I would imagine Houston really tries to lose that football game, even though Indianapolis, currently with the number 5 overall pick, is probably trying to lose that one as well. You've got Chicago at number 2. They're hoping Houston wins and they lose, and then they get the number 1 overall pick. Of course, we expect Chicago to trade down, gather more assets. I would certainly advise them to do that unless they fall in love with Will Anderson. It's understandable. Will Anderson is a beast. You've got Seattle getting the number 3 overall pick. I would think that's probably going to stay. Unless it's a strength of schedule thing. Denver faces the Chargers, and I don't think the Chargers have anything to play for, unless I'm mistaken, because I think they're locked into a wild card right now. So maybe Denver wins that game and indirectly screws Seattle, because obviously Denver has nothing to play for. They don't have their pick. There's no sense in them tanking. Seattle is definitely rooting for Denver to lose to lock up the number 3 overall pick. Arizona is going to be tanking this week hardcore to try and lock up the number 4 overall pick. They've got a lame duck head coach, and they have Kyler Murray out for the year. They want to get a superstar defensive player, or they could even trade down and get more picks. Indianapolis, they face Houston. That is a full tank off. We'll see who loses that one. The Detroit Lions have the number 6 overall pick via the Rams, so they'll be rooting against the Rams. Atlanta, the number 7 overall pick. They're facing the Tampa Bay Bucks at home, but the rumor has it that Tom Brady might only play 1 series in that game. Atlanta right now is 3-point favorites. If I'm Atlanta, I'm trying to lose. I'm not interested. I want a top 7 pick, but if Tom Brady only plays 1 series and Blaine Gabbert plays the rest of the way, Atlanta might back into winning that game. They did beat Arizona by 1 point, and I'm sure their fans were not happy about that because they would be in a much better position right now. Vegas has the number 8 overall pick. They make the executive decision to go to Jarrett Stidham, and really try and lose. And Jarrett Stidham almost won. Really good performance. I would imagine they would lose to Kansas City this week. They're 9.5-point home underdogs against the Kansas City team who needs to win to still have a chance at the number 1 overall seed. And then you do have Carolina with the number 9 overall pick. I think they're going to get crushed by New Orleans. And then Philadelphia with the 10th pick. New Orleans has no reason to not play hard. They don't even own their first round pick. So guys, let's get to the official mock draft. That was just the quick breakdown there on the current situation. And then when it comes to the mock draft, guys, I have to agree. Bryce Young should be number 1 overall. I will say CJ Stroud did everything possible. Checked off every box against Georgia. The running, the ability to get down, the ability to maneuver in the pocket, the throwing accuracy, we already knew it was there. Bryce Young and CJ Stroud both had amazing bowl game performances. I would still say Bryce Young is 1, CJ Stroud is 2, but my goodness, CJ Stroud helped himself significantly in terms of the NFL draft, answering questions about his movement within the pocket and his ability to use his legs when needed. He has really long strides, and it does look like he does a good job at avoiding contact. So CJ Stroud really making it interesting, possibly with the number 1 overall pick. I would imagine, I know there's people talking about Will Levis. I'm going to talk about him in a second. But right now, I would say Bryce Young, QB1, CJ Stroud QB2, Will Levis QB3, Will Anderson going number 2 overall. Absolutely, guys. There's a debate. Is it Jalen Carter? Is it Will Anderson? Guys, I don't want to kill Georgia defensive linemen, but last year I was like, please don't draft Trayvon Walker. You don't draft a project number 1 overall. Take Thibodeaux. Take Aiden Hutchinson. They didn't listen to me. Jalen Carter just simply doesn't have enough production to warrant a top 5 pick. He has 13 total tackles, and I understand pressures and things but guys, Jalen Carter is just not enough of an impactful player to warrant a top 5 pick, in my opinion. But they have Will Anderson too, who was just ridiculous as a sophomore. This year, he wasn't nearly as good, but Will Anderson's going to be a superstar edge rusher in the NFL. There's no doubt about it. He still did have 10 sacks, but last year he had 17 sacks as a sophomore. And then Jalen Carter, and there's the issue, guys. The 3 sacks, he has, 30 tackles, but only 13 solo tackles. Will Levis at number 5. To me, I'll just say this. I think there's a very casual opinion going on about Will Levis right now, that he's like Zach Wilson 2.0. And guys, let me say, as someone who said Justin Fields is way better than Zach Wilson, it's on the record. I said Justin Fields was QB2 of that class and should have been drafted number 2 overall behind Trevor Lawrence. I said that. But people are trying to make this false equivalency like Will Levis is somehow the same prospect as Zach Wilson. They couldn't be any more different. And, they're talking about him not having a good year. Look up Josh Allen's, stats at Wyoming. I mean, it's like there's a lot that goes into it. You're playing in the SEC. Kentucky does not recruit good skill position players. There's a lot that went into Will Levis struggling. So I'm not this huge Will Levis fan, but I do think there was a casual opinion out there that somehow he's Zach Wilson 2.0 when they're not even close to the same prospect. Not even close. Zach Wilson played at a small school. He played a much easier schedule, completely different build, smaller. It's just not even close to the same. So Will Levis at number 5, he's an intriguing QB prospect for sure. Myles Murphy at number 6, not a fan, not enough production for me, 6.5 sacks. Remember the other Clemson edge rusher that the Raiders took at number 4 overall? I think Farrell. Myles Murphy, he's bigger than him, but he reminds me of him. I'm not a fan personally. Wilson is another edge rusher. I'm just not seeing the production to warrant that high of a pick from Texas Tech. It's mainly due to the athletic build. Saransky, the offensive tackle from Northwestern, is going to be a stud, certainly. I think that'd be a great pick by Vegas. Quentin Johnson as wide receiver 1. I'm going to have to disagree with that. Quentin Johnson is a good receiver, but that high, I don't think so. Ringo at number 10 overall, the cornerback from Georgia. We'll see. Ringo was like a top 5 overall recruit in the entire country, so it's understandable. He didn't have the greatest of years. People were saying that he shut down Marvin Harrison Jr. I think the coverage was tilted over that way. I don't know about that. Paris Johnson Jr., solid offensive tackle for sure. Imagine if Tennessee drafted Paris Johnson Jr. They would have 2 Ohio State tackles, NPF and Paris Johnson Jr. Brian Bresee, really unique prospect, really unique. Only 3.5 sacks. The former number 1 overall player in the nation, according to recruiting in 2020, just did not have the production. It's very interesting. We see all of these pass rushers. I feel like some of these kids are going to fall personally. It's just not enough production to warrant that high of a pick. The offensive tackle, Jones from Georgia, I would have to look up his PFF grade, but I remember him being a 5-star. Anthony Richardson, so guys, this is my ultimate bust. I simply think Anthony Richardson is too inaccurate to be successful at the NFL level. That is my prediction right now. Certainly he has interesting tools, no doubt about it. But in terms of investing the 14th overall pick, not a fan. I love Joey Porter Jr., the cornerback from Penn State, 6'2", beautiful build, 11 pass defense. He is going to be a stud. That's a lockdown corner for Pittsburgh. Jordan Addison, I think he's really good, guys. I would have him as my wide receiver number 2, but in terms of the only problem with Jordan Addison is the height, 6'0". You know, that is but we've seen receivers like Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, the smaller build, have significant success. I just love the way Jordan Addison moves. And I think he's got that sleek build that can be really successful in the NFL. Christian Gonzalez, a cornerback from Oregon at 17, I think he's going to be a total bust. That's just my opinion. Miami forfeits their first-round pick. That's crazy to me. That is a crazy hard thing to swallow if you're Miami. That is a big asset. This kid is interesting. Jared Verse, the edge rusher from Florida State. He went to Florida State in the portal. I think this kid is going to be a very good quality NFL player. He gets pressures. JSN at 20. So you got JSN, 5 catches, 43 yards. He had the crazy sophomore year. With JSN, he would be my wide receiver number 1. You know, and of course it comes down to risk management. How much are you willing to risk, considering he had multiple hamstring injuries? That's what it comes down to these teams. But Jacksonville getting Jackson Smith-Njigba with Trevor Lawrence, amazing. That would be amazing. Bijan Robinson, how about a running back possibly going in the first round at 21 to the Bucs? Yeah, I like Bijan Robinson. Certainly he's the number 1 running back, but we know with the NFL, it is hard to value running backs all that high at this point. Cam Smith, he's the number 1 corner on a lot of people's boards. Very physical. The only concern about him, he's 6'0". Trenton Simpson, the former 5-star linebacker from Clemson at 23. I think he'll fall to the second round. I think he's too slow, and he won't test well at the combine. Hyatt, the Biletnikoff winner at 24. Stay away. There's no route tree. He has no route tree. But, he had a really nice year. I would stay away. I do not think he would be Well, you know what? Lamar Jackson throws a lot of deep balls. Then again, they got to keep Lamar Jackson. Who knows what's going on with that situation? Michael Mayer. Oh, my goodness. Michael Mayer and Justin Herbert. It would be amazing. But I am interested to see Michael Mayer's 40 time. I have some questions about his athleticism. He seems a little slow. I'm going to need him to run a good 40 time for a tight end to be picked that high. Osiris Torrance, the best offensive guard in college football, if you guys don't know, went to Florida in the transfer portal, graded out as the number 1 offensive guard according to PFF. He's going to be a really good guard in the NFL. How about Devin Witherspoon? Really physical cornerback from Illinois. I think that's great value for Minnesota. It always seems like Minnesota drafts late in the first round, and they always take a secondary player. Guys, there's no way Brian Branch lasts till 28. Brian Branch is a top 15 pick. He is a total superstar. Clark Phillips, you know what, guys? It's a very sad story with Clark Phillips. He's only 5'10". If he was 6'1", he'd be the next Sauce Gardner. Clark Phillips is a beast. Gibbs, the running back, he's really athletic. He's really fast. I don't see any way he goes in the first round with the way running backs are picked in the NFL, but he will light up the combine. Harrison, an offensive tackle from Oregon, and then Foskey, an edge rusher from Notre Dame. He's a guy that just produces. As a sophomore, he produced. As a junior, he produced with 10.5 sacks. Really like him as a player. And you guys can see some other players that... I'm just going to go through some players that I like in the second round. Nolan Smith is a really intriguing prospect who is a former number 1 overall player in 2019. He got injured midway through this year. Getting him in the second round, man, could you imagine? That would be so interesting if Arizona did this. If they got Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, that'd be real interesting. Noah Sewell, another former 5-star. I wonder about his athleticism. Duncan, the big offensive tackle from Maryland, I would imagine he's a guy that probably shoots up into the top 15. Typically, huge offensive tackles go really high in the draft. Josh Downs, I really like. The only concern is his height. Darnell Washington is an amazing blocker, an amazing blocking tight end. Dexter's a former 5-star defensive tackle. We'll see where there's a lot of value in the second round, guys. And you know what? I'm a little bit sad that I'm not seeing there yet. Guys, I think Zach Harrison needs to be a first-round pick. Zach Harrison produces so many pressures. He's a disruptor. That's what he does. I've seen a lot when it comes to Zach Harrison. He only has 3.5 sacks, but he gets so many pressures. He's an athletic freak. He's going to light up the combine. Oh, Dalton Kincaid. I think that might be my number one tight end. The next George Kittle. Oh, I love Dalton Kincaid. Really, really good player there. Sam Laporta is another tight end I really like. Zach Evans at number 80, huh? So, guys, that's just kind of the update right now when it comes to Zach Charbonnet, a mini Jonathan Taylor. We'll have to see how well he runs at the combine, but he's good. So that is the update. Hendon Hooker. Of course, Hendon Hooker, the issue with him is he 25 at this point, I believe. So his age is a major problem, and teams do have big issues with age overall in terms of the draft. Another guy that I like that's not even on here, Xavier Hutchinson. All he did was produce at Iowa State. I know his measurables aren't the best. He's big, and he doesn't run extremely fast, but I really do like Xavier Hutchinson as a possession receiver in the NFL from Iowa State. So that is kind of the update on the top 100 players. The 1.0 mock draft version, just my original thought on some of these guys. Of course, we'll have to see what happens with Week 18 and see how badly some of these teams try and lose to get some players. There's a lot of talent, especially in the second round of this draft, with a lot of guys that were former 5-stars that maybe haven't lived up to it in terms of the overall stats, but they are elite athletes. So we'll see what happens. Either way, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.